All right, what's going on, everybody? We are back with another episode of the Shop Podcast Live today. Another beautiful Saturday evening. Got a great show lined up. Make sure, chat, let me know in the chat specifically if you guys can hear me. We don't want any audio issues. We don't want any problems. Let me know if you guys can hear me for sure. Down in the chat, we appreciate everybody coming up, showing up, showing out every single Saturday, man. We got a great jam-packed show. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. Got a guest that we need to introduce here. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and start with that just to get it out the way. So as you guys know, every single week, whether it's a guest on the show or not, we like to provide just consistent, awesome content. So I like to bring in new people, people that haven't been part of the show, friends of friends, all these kind of cool people that we find around the community. So we're going to go ahead and just introduce the guest of tonight's show. Mr. Phantom himself. Go ahead and give yourself a shout out, Phantom. Let everybody know where they can find you at, what you got going on.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Phantom Me 9. I'm all over the place. Same name everywhere. Mixer, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube. I'm the resident lurker everywhere. So you can find me on Twitter, Phantom Me 9.
Yeah. Okay. And he used to be a part of GKB's what was it? The gaming what was the name
Console
of the podcast?
Corner.
Console Corner. Sorry about that. So
Yeah.
shout out to GKB, one of the OG members of the Shop podcast as well. Him and She Wolf. So this man comes from a really really good group of people. So that we love to have awesome people here on the show. So once again, Phantom, thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your evening to come hang out with us today, and hope you have a good time on the show. So let's go ahead and get around to my three horsemen. We in total we make four horsemen. So let's go ahead and just start with Stagger. Let everybody know what's going on with you, Mister Stagger. Unarilla, what you got cooking up this week, man?
Oh, not much. Just sticking with streaming the indies on Twitch now. May have made that a permanent switch. Recently got affiliated. Not that
Nice,
that's a huge
nice.
deal, but it's nice. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch, and here every Saturday.
Let's get it. Let's get it, man. Was super consistent. Awesome guy to have on. Once again, he is doing it. I think. Well, basically, you just have to cut out the bag now. Exclusively going to be streaming on Twitch, so check him out there, guys. Always doing great things. King of Indies. If you want to figure out, what indie games you want to play, this guy's probably played it, so hit him up. He'll probably give you a review, whether the game is good or bad. But either way, appreciate you every single week, Stagger, being on. So let's move on to Centurion, man. Another guy who had his hand in a lot of cookie jars, essentially. Got a lot going on with YouTube. So let everybody know where they can find you, Centurion.
Well, woo! The four horsemen of gaming are here. We're styling and profiling. Nah, trying to rip off that one.
And
Anyways, oh man, I'm just happy it's Saturday and be chatting some games. Yeah, it's been a very interesting week for gaming, so definitely ready to have this chat. And yeah, due to me working so much, I haven't been able to do content, but that is all changing here pretty quick to be able to start doing regular content again on a very regular basis. So I definitely thank everybody who put up with that.
Appreciate it, man. So once again, this guy's gonna be bringing back his content. I know his work schedule just changed. I'm sure he'll inform you guys there. Once again, if you guys are not following us on Twitter, that's where a lot of our everything goes down. You'll find a lot of information regarding the YouTube channel, all the other stuff we're doing across the board. Follow us all on Twitter. That's we kind of use that as our hub. So last but not least, the Barry White of video games, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere himself. Fuzzy
What's up?
Belvedere himself. What's going on with you, man? Let everybody know what you got cooking up, Fuzz.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Fuzzy Belvedere here. Been kind of keeping low profile for a bit, but man, Twitter gaming has been all the blaze about some stuff, so can't wait to talk about that. Man, it's so great to be here, so let's get it.
Let's get it, man. Let's dive in. You guys know we don't waste no time on the show, man. We got the guest on this week. Let's get it fucking popping. So once again, as you file in, hit the like button, say hello in the chat. Everybody watching live, hello, good day. If you're not in the chat, just appreciate you viewing, liking the content, favorite, and share that link once again. Let's try and pack this thing up. Let's go for 30 live viewers tonight. That'd be amazing if we can get to that. So make sure your friends know, make sure your family know about the podcast. If you want a fair, fun podcast, come holler at us here at the Shop Podcast. So let's go ahead and just dive right the fuck in with the topic. So we're gonna start with the poll of the week like we do every single week. So if you've been living under a rock or it's your first time here, I do a poll every single Monday. Will either be a poll or a question every single Monday. So follow me on Twitter, and then we talk about it here on the show. So this week's poll was interesting, kind of something that I was thinking about internally, and I figured, well, why not bring it up to the panel? It's the best place to have that discussion about it. So the poll was, what should Xbox do um, to gain traction in the Japanese market at this point, and why? So there was four different options for the poll. Buy a Japanese dev, more marketing, create a studio, or is this a complete waste of time even asking this question? So the actual winner was buy a Japanese developer. Now, I don't know the actual technical part if this could actually truly happen. Because somebody in the comment section was letting me know, hey, I don't even think they are capable of doing that. I don't know if that's even a thing, like an American company buying a Japanese company. So we'll work out the logistics. But in this video game space, if they could, well, we're not looking at red tape here, but theoretically, if they could, looks like that would be the best option, followed by waste of time. So a lot of people were thinking that that's just a waste of time. So I want to get you guys points here on the panel as well as everybody in the chat. Let us know what they should do with the Japanese market. We've been talking about it this entire generation. What are the strategic changes that they're going to make? So let's start with you, Guest of the Hour, Phantom. I don't know if you ever even had this discussion or thought about this, but what do you think out of those options, which you had chose and why?
We've had this discussion before on other podcasts way back when. It's always been a market that everybody thinks, Xbox should be all in. But really, when it boils down to it, JRPGs are not their main bread and butter for their console. It's a great idea, but in the long run, I don't think it's a waste of. I think it's a waste of time, in my opinion. I mean, they could technically bring on some devs to maybe make some games at the initiative that have more of that JRPG feel to them. But I mean, they know their market and they know that, why would you go after like a smaller market when you can invest that into other areas? So I think that's their vision for the time being. They're going to talk with Japanese developers over there about bringing games to Xbox and stuff like that. I know Phil's over there talking with them, but
Yeah.
I don't see it being something imperative that they want to do right now.
Okay. No, absolutely. And this is something, like you said, it's been talked about through this entire generation. Now, every time we've seen Phil go over there, something's happened. Now, it doesn't really result in like any exclusives or anything like that, but something happens. A lot of times he's going over there. Most recently, they were able to get like Jump Force, and they were working on these marketing deals for certain like third-party games. So Phil, they go over there and they do some work. Now, once again, it's been tough because there's like a non-existent Xbox market in Japan at this point. So it's like, how do you jumpstart that market essentially without doing something either extremely risky or out of character, or just dumping a lot of money into it, almost blindly hoping that it'll work. So there's some limited options there, especially when you work it with the small market share in Japan like Xbox is, and really not much fanfare. There's really not anybody in Japan in that market looking for anything Xbox, not even a product, like not even a particular device that's associated with the Xbox. So I think for me, that's the biggest hill that they're gonna have to get over at some point. So you gotta do something. I mean, maybe having a studio there is, I think would be a big deal for them. To me, I think that's the best thing that they could do. Get a studio there. That way, you're getting, the local feeling. You can get their knowledge. Maybe they can come up with some kind of game their market thinks that they may want, and maybe that'll take off. But who knows? Who knows? So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Stagger. Let us know what you think. Out of those options, which one would you choose? Second of all, why would you pick that option?
I mean, I voted by a Japanese studio, and to address the thing you said in the intro about somebody commenting that they didn't know if they could buy a Japanese or if, an outside
Yeah,
I googled it while you were talking, and it appears you can. So
you can. Okay, so it's
yeah,
possible.
the news is a little bit old that I'm reading, a few years, but multiple people have commented saying I've worked for a Japanese company and they got bought out by an American company. So it seems like it's a possibility.
Okay.
That being said, I did vote to buy, but thinking about it while listening to Phantom and just standing here, I don't know if it's necessarily a thing they need to do because mobile gaming is a huge market there, and same with China and those Asian countries. And xCloud might actually be their way into that market. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. Like, do they need to do the JRPG thing when they can just get people to buy their service on there and use their phones to play their games over their servers and stream them? So It's just a possibility and a different look at that. So that's kind of where I'm at now. Don't have to do that market, that style of game. I mean, and they can hit that market with the xCloud.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a great point as well. I know that's something that we're gonna get to you in a second, Fuzz, and I know he brought up that specifically when we were talking about it. You know, he said that he thinks that could be something that they would do that would get them in that market as well. So let's just go ahead and throw this over to you then, Fuzz, since that was
Mhm.
one of the things you talked about. I don't know if you want to piggyback off of that idea,
Yeah.
but which option did you choose and why?
Well, I picked marketing, and it was mainly to market that xCloud because the mobile gaming has been the craze there, and portables have always done well over there. The Switch is doing very, very well over there, and like the home console, even though the PlayStation 4 does well over there, it's not the numbers like the PS1, PS2, or even the PS3 saw over there. They're like fractions of that, but it's mainly because it's not as much of a focus for the home-based console. So something like xCloud is like a perfect timing type of thing, especially with next gen being right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
If they push that xCloud marketing in a way where, okay, the Japanese market doesn't always like the first person shooter or the third person shooter that is prevalent on the Xbox, they still have that wide variety of titles in their library that they'll be able to market to say, hey, you don't have to just play these at home. You can play these on the go. Just log in. If you have the console, you can stream it for free. If you don't have the console, with this small monthly subscription, you have access to hundreds of titles, and I think that will be their better in at this point. But that xCloud I think is their key this gen, because I don't foresee Xbox ever doing its own mobile or portable device, but they need to really market that xCloud as best they can.
Okay, so essentially that's what you're saying, and you're just piggybacking off. All right, so that's
Yeah.
actually a great point, because that's one thing that we discussed about xCloud that essentially they're looking at. You know, some people are looking at it like a short term solution, band-aid on a broken leg. But what you guys got to understand is that opens up that literally that means their system is borderless. That means they can literally Xbox can go anywhere. So that's the whole initiative for the xCloud, that we don't want borders to be a reason why we can't put these games in certain places. We don't want that to be a limit for us. So we want to remove that limit, or that option, out of the actual equation. If we can, that'll help our games grow in these other areas where traditionally it doesn't grow at. So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Centurion. Out of those four options, which one did you choose and why?
Well, I think they would probably be more relevant in creating a developer, purely because there is a lot of talent in that part of the world. Come on, video games got their start in that part of the world. Some of the best games ever came out of that part of the world. So there's definitely enough talent to justify trying to build a studio over there. Now, I don't think you're going to see any big moves, whether buying a studio, creating a studio, anything, until after xCloud is obviously established. And I think we're probably going to see a little bit more emphasis on xCloud and JRPGs with the Phantasy Star Online, because Phantasy Star Online is supposed to start next year. And obviously, that's something that Phil Spencer has been working hard on. And it's probably going to be one of those games that get put in Game Pass. And once it's in Game Pass, and if xCloud is up and running and available over there, the people are going to be signing on to Game Pass just to be able to play Phantasy Star Online mobily, which is going to be a big change. Like, to go on with Stagger, who is Googling something, I was actually Googling it too. I did find one article from a company called Reuters, or however you want to pronounce that.
Mm-hmm.
And this article actually came out this year. And so effective August 1st, Japan's government said on Monday that high-tech industries will be added to a list of businesses for which foreign ownership of Japanese firms is restricted.
Oh,
This is being towards the technology side of the market, so I don't know if that's going to apply to software development, but I'm pretty sure because it involves technology, there's probably a little bit of extra red tape that's involved. So definitely, I don't think they're just able to swoop in and buy a developer. There's probably a few hoops that they would have to jump through, which would definitely make them weigh their options, because if you're going to spend, X amount of extra millions of dollars just to be able to buy a company when you could probably start one for cheaper, that's definitely going to come into play.
Okay. No, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. So, once again, guys, great topic to start off with. We always like to hit the ground running, essentially going forward. So, that's something that we've talked about. This is something that I don't think they need to be afraid of Japan. A lot of people say, "Hey, just fucking abandon the market," but I don't know, man. I still have hope. I still have hope that at some point they'll be able to make use of the market. You know what I'm saying? Something will happen, and they'll really be able to do what they need to do to get everything up and running. They'll get it. They'll gain traction there, and I think obviously just a game is probably the best way. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you ever have a Pokemon or a Mario brother or something that gains that kind of traction, but you got to start somewhere essentially going forward. So that was a great starting topic, everybody. Once again, as I ask these questions, chat, they're not only for the people here on the panel, but they're for you guys on the chat as well. So let us know what you guys think about it as well. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here. So let me go ahead and get that pulled up. It is going to be something that this week has been thoroughly discussed. Now this is almost a two-part question, so we're talking a little bit about Death Stranding, but there's two parts of the whole Death Stranding situation that we're gonna cover. So I actually probably should save this shit for last because I feel like we're gonna take up a lot of time talking about this. So one is the console to PC outrage. Essentially, it was announced that this game Death Stranding is not exclusively going to be on PlayStation. It will be coming to PC at some point. Now, this is something that, as if you're an Xbox fan, has been talked about throughout the generation. It's really been an inflammatory topic. Well, it's not a true exclusive if it's on a PC as well. So a lot of Sony guys are getting that back. They don't really know how to take the news. Once again, not throwing any shade at them, but it is what it is. You guys are in your feelings, and I understand. I do completely understand that. But the second thing I wanted to bring up about the Death Stranding situation is I didn't want to really dive into the Metacritic scores because you guys know how we feel about Metacritic on this show. It's not really anything that that's hidden. We don't really value what goes on with Metacritic, but either way, I kind of wanted to talk about that as far as people relying on those numbers too often this generation. So this is a two-part thing, Phantom. We're gonna start with you again. So first, just the fact that Death Stranding went to PC. How do you feel that about the way people are acting about that, as well as just the whole situation with reviews? People are kind of leaning on them throughout this generation instead of just using them as more of guides.
To answer the first part of it, short-term memory loss is all I gotta say, because games from Xbox and PlayStation been going to PC forever, since back in the 360 days. It's no different. The fact that this is a big Kojima thing, and I think there's more hype behind it because of that. But when a game developer creates a game, their ultimate goal is to make the most money and have the most people enjoy it. Now, to get that funding to make the game, they sign that exclusivity with whoever it may be at that time. So for them to say, yeah, we're going to bring it to Steam or Epic or wherever it may want to go, then anything that any of these so-called fans are getting hyped about or losing their shit over is irrelevant to me. I mean, Red Dead Redemption did the same thing, and people are outraged for like 2 days, and then they said whatever, and they're buying it. I mean, buy it on the Rockstar launcher. I mean, whatever. Then to go on to the second part about Metacritic, I I've never liked Metacritic. I never will. I That's one of the reasons that got me into the streaming platforms, YouTube and Twitch and Mixer and stuff like that, because I want to see firsthand gameplay, how different people are enjoying the game, how they play it differently, different aspects of the game. I may read some reviews here and there, but Metacritic has never been an end all be all. And why all of a sudden it's become that, it's just fodder for console war garbage, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, so I understand that. So this whole Death Stranding thing has been kind of a unique situation. It's been pretty polarizing. Kind of see the shoe on the other foot. and kind of see how people are reacting to it. And it's just so funny to me that like we get these reactions from either side. And we're not talking just console specific here, from both sides, Xbox and all PlayStation guys, essentially like throwing in the towel, like fuck it, this game is no longer exclusive. And I thought they've been said this game wasn't going to be a true exclusive anyway. That's not something that was hidden. That's public information. So I thought they had been
Short-term
came
memory.
out exactly and said, look, this game is not is going to be coming to PC later on. So let's keep the same energy across the board when we having these topics or having these discussions about these particular things. So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Stag. I want to know what you feel. Once again, this has been something that's been talked about all week. People have been going in and out about it, talking crazy about it, arguing about it all over Twitter. I haven't really partaken in any of that, but at the end of the day, I want to figure out what's going on with you, man. How do you feel about that, man?
I don't care. To be perfectly honest with you, I feel like just like what Phantom said, it's another place for developers, publishers to make money. It's good for them. It's good for gamers. It gives you more options to play the stuff. The part that I will continually rail against and dislike is the continual goalpost moving when, people shit all over Xbox for, oh, I don't need an Xbox because I can play my games on PC now and da-da-da-da-da. But, when a short-term memory problem of a game that was possibly exclusive to the platform of Sony is now going to be on PC, that, oh, yeah, look at Sony doing things for the consumer-friendly model again. And it's like, whoa. You're going to sit here and crap all over another company for doing the same exact thing and then say that this is fucking sliced bread? Come on, dude. Like, just I don't like it. I don't get it. I don't like the double standards, hypocrisies of that argument, but I do like that gamers are getting more places to play the games where they want to play them.
Yeah.
Metacritic don't give a shit. I think it's a good place in a sense. It's another place to get a piece of the information that you might need to make a decision based on a game. But if you're letting that be the only thing that influences your opinion on what you're going to play, you are going to miss out on so many good games that don't score above an 80. And why the fuck is an 84 not a good game anymore? I don't even understand that. Like,
if I get an 84 in school, I'm happy. So I don't know what
shit. If I got a 70, I was happy. That's a C. Like, it's still like I play as an indie streamer, indie gamer. I play AAAs and AA games too, but I play a lot of games that probably don't score very high, and I have a ton of fun playing them. Yeah. It's about having fun. And I mean, like, Death Stranded specifically, a bunch of the critic reviews were like, this is not a fun game. Not fun.
Literally.
I spent 10 hours struggling, and I read that in multiple different places where it's just like, okay, like, sure, great, it's art. You're telling a humanistic type story of struggle and blah, that's great. I mean, it's probably amazing and it looks beautiful, but like, I want to have fun.
Yeah, I'm lost.
So,
I still have no idea what's going on.
I think people weigh too much on it, and there's plenty of other options out there for gamers to find the answer they're looking for.
Absolutely. I agree 110%. I mean, I think that's something that's universally, well, not universally. If it was universal, we wouldn't be having a conversation, but I think people should universally adopt. I mean, we all have different styles. We all have different tastes. The funny thing about this whole Destiny thing, and what makes it unique for me, is that we've seen what the game was. This whole trick, this whole Kojima thing kills me because he's literally showed us what every single trailer is exactly what the game is, and everybody's like, what's going on? He showed us what's like every single thing we've seen. That's actually the game. That's actually the game. Like, that's the game. Like, that's what you do in the game. That's how it's literally been the game. Like, all of us are waiting on this big plot twist. Like, okay, this is all leading up to something. No, that's the game. Like, you walk around, you carry shit. There's people chasing you. You wear an otter suit from time to time. All these unusual. That's the game.
And I thought the otter suit was a joke at first until I realized it was
it's dead ass. That's the game. That's the game.
Well, I've also been frustrated with, like, everyone's like, oh, it's by Kojima. It's amazing. Like, slow down.
Let's stop.
Slow down. Nonsense. Like, yeah, sure, he made like a Metal Gear Solid, and a lot of people love it, but not everybody does.
It's been a while since he made a good Metal Gear Solid. Let's not just because 5 got Game of the Year don't mean shit. That don't mean shit to me because 5 wasn't great. I'm sorry. It wasn't on par with a lot of the other Metal Gears in my opinion. That's just me speaking, but that's how I feel about this
I
situation.
mean, I feel like you need to judge a developer and a publisher. Yes, you can look at their past work and say they've done all this amazing stuff. It doesn't mean their next game's going to be good. I mean, we can take, for instance, the hate Halo 5 gets.
Yeah.
Or let me just for what 343 gets for what they supposedly did to Halo. You know what I mean? So
it is what it is. Come on, Stag.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man. So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Centurion. I want to get your opinion about this whole Death Stranding situation. First of all, the game being, on PC, even though it wasn't like they hid that information. We knew that it was going to be on PC. You can go back. It's public knowledge. It wasn't something that they hid. It was something that you could pull up easily and find, as well as just the outrage as far as the Metacritic and the backlash, how heavily this generation is. It's not even, it's just this entire gen. It's been such a weird gen for whatever reason. All these precedents been set where now everybody's so stuck on numbers and Metacritic and all these advanced analytics. Shit feels like NBA or something. Like I'm watching the fucking league or something like that. But let's get your opinion, Centurion, on what you think about those situations with Death Stranding.
Metacritic is the end-all be-all for me, and I only play games that are 90 and above, and also I only play true exclusives to my little sacred garden. No, not really.
You only play mobile games?
Oh, wow. Now I'm choking on that one. So, man, this whole Death Stranding thing, for starters, the whole PC thing does not bother me at all. Some people want to sit upright in a very uncomfortable chair and, play on their monitor. Me, on the other hand, I'd rather kick back on my couch and play on my 60-inch 4K television. So, kudos, you play where you want. And yeah, it's definitely a very big consumer move. We all know that Sony has been absolutely pro-consumer this entire generation by locking backwards compatibility behind a paywall. So yeah, I could go on and on about that. Oh yeah, backwards compatibility, crossplay, everything. It's like you gotta. Pretty soon, you're gonna have the aftermarket PlayStation credit card slot attachment that you could just walk up and yeah.
This took a left turn.
So, anyways,
sponsored by EA.
Brought to you by EA and Activision, the new PlayStation credit card reader.
Right.
Stop it. All right, go ahead.
So, definitely, I have no problem with them doing this because, I look at it like it's like the whole xCloud thing because I'm actually liking the idea of I can leave all my stuff at home or I could just grab my laptop and play the game somewhere low, at least on Xbox standard, because it doesn't matter on Xbox if you buy the certain games, it's on both systems if you buy it digitally. Now, obviously, with Kojima's thing, oh man, how can I describe it? Just because it's Kojima doesn't mean it's going to be good. We all remember the original 3 Star Wars movies by George Lucas. Oh my God, there was a huge cult classic. George Lucas is God. And then he came out with episodes 1, 2, and 3.
He couldn't miss. In first 3, he couldn't miss. He couldn't make a bad movie.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, episode 1 comes out with Jar Jar Binks, and people are like, "What happened to George Lucas?"
He's so like a bad movie.
So it just goes to show, man, name ain't nothing. A name isn't nothing. If you can't hit that mark, to me, it just doesn't matter. And every single one of the previews I watched for that game, I mean, I didn't know what was going on. I had my wife in the background telling me she didn't know what was going on, and I better not buy that game, especially at full price. I'm going to eventually pick it up because I got to know what weird Kool-Aid they got going on in that game. But definitely
walking.
And that's another thing, too. Lots of walking. You're just walking around, delivering packages in this lifeless world. But when Gears 5 came out, you're on the skiff just driving around in this
I hate that
world
skiff.
and blah blah blah. But now wait a minute. Gears 5 got knocked down because of the skiff and the lifelessness of the world and the meaning. Like basically, it was filler. So you're telling me that walking around delivering packages isn't filler?
No, it's art.
No, it's I know. I'm getting that's where it's just the goalpost moving, the change in tune, people going back and deleting tweets and other stuff out of their timelines to kind of hide the fraudulent activity. It's just gotten absolutely ridiculous that they have tore down the Xbox platform this entire generation, and there has been some really toxic individuals who have made a lot of recognition from just tearing down the Xbox brand for these policies, and all of a sudden PlayStation's starting to do it, and they're having to change their tune. And personally, I think it makes you look like a total a-hole.
I would really like it if people would just stand behind what they say.
Exactly.
They want, like, certain personalities want Phil Spencer to be held accountable for things he said in the past, then stop deleting your own tweets.
Oh, dude. And that's the funny part. I have to laugh when they're like, he needs to be held accountable. You need to be put in his situation, man. World events change. Economies change. The president wakes up one day and is like, you know what? I'm going to screw with this today. And so therefore, there you go. Things change. There is things that are out of everyone's control. And just like in everybody's
rapidly changing. So.
Oh God, yeah. And like also it's kind of like my opinion with xCloud. xCloud is going to be an option for those that are potentially going to be priced out of the new consoles because of what's going on. You know, people want these strong, powerful consoles. There's talks about tariffs and other stuff. There is potential these consoles are going to be somewhat expensive. So they're trying to create options for those that can't go out and buy these things day and date. But anyways, back on to Death Stranding, man. I think it's kind of funny that this is happening because I remember how many people are like, oh, it's going to be a 90. It's going to be a 90. And Gears 5 has obviously scored just 1 or 2 points higher. So that puts it on the same level. But apparently Gears 5 was utter trash and Death Stranding is art and it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I'm done ranting. I'm sorry. I went off on a tangent on that one.
We do that. It's cool.
It can happen very easily when you see just crazy stuff like this happening. Like I have held to the same tune this entire time that Death Stranding is not what everybody thinks it's going to be, and I'm actually kind of wondering what the user score is going to come out for that.
Yeah, I still have a problem with that game as far as like major plot hole that they showed from like the earlier trailers all the way up to now. Those invisible creatures or the BTs or whatever they call them. It's like they show in the clips where you're not supposed to move, you're not supposed to breathe, so they don't attack you. But if there's a dead body laying there, the thing attacks it. Well, dead bodies don't breathe or move, so how does it differentiate you from,
your
the dead
IQ
body?
isn't high enough.
But yeah, when it comes to just everybody flip-flopping, well, I won't say everybody, but a good bit of those that are on Twitter flip-flopping on their idea or their view of this game, it just was funny to me. It's like I remember all the people are like, oh, I could play Gears on my high rig PC. I don't need a Xbox One. Well, it's like, well, this is coming to PC as well, so do I really need a PlayStation 4? But I don't know. I've had lukewarm interest in this game primarily because of the plot hole. I'll probably still wind up picking it up, but I'm definitely waiting until that thing is like somewhere in like the $19.99 to $24.99 price point range, which I'm figuring by the holidays they'll probably be at that point. But
Black Friday,
exactly. But
it's going to be right next to that exclusive console that's going to be discounted too.
No, but it just cracks me up that how people are all bad mouthing or downplaying Gears and other exclusives on the Xbox, but now this one, it's no longer exclusive. Well, yeah, I saw a few people like, I'm canceling my pre-order. I'm like, really? You're canceling your pre-order because somebody can play it on PC 3 months or 6 months later? That's that's brilliant, I guess. I mean, if you're interested in the game, just get the game. If you find out later, just before you go to buy it or accept the download or whatever, so you don't get that no refund thing on the pre-order, that it's going to be a bad game, then make changes then. But it's I don't know. The game hasn't really changed all these viewings that they've showed it.
I can interject a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't understand this, what you just referenced, this whole I'm going to cancel my pre-order because somebody else can play it. Why is that a thing? Like, why does somebody else's ability to play that game take away from your enjoyment on your platform? It blows my...
the secret garden.
Oh God, that's right. Let me grab my phone. It's such an asinine statement to make, and to be all like, "Oh, I'm canceling my pre-order." Hey, guy on Twitter, no one fucking cares. I mean, it's just... Sorry, I just don't understand why your enjoyment has taken away because it's no longer exclusive to your plastic box.
Yeah, they're taking their ball and going home, but it's like nobody was playing kickball with you, so yeah, go home. Okay, just yeah, it is ridiculous, but I just people shouldn't put all of their faith or trust in particular brand or dev or anything. It's like if you enjoyed their previous work, great, be excited for their up and coming work, but don't automatically assume because they had a game of the year prior that the next one's automatically going to be a game of the year. I mean, so many people or so many devs have made very good games and they've had a few bombs, and I don't think there's a dev out there that hasn't had a bomb. And it's like, okay, if you want to talk about some of the ones within Naughty Dog or Santa Monica, no, they've had bombs. It's just that everybody, like Phantom was saying earlier, selective memory. It's like those games before, the Last of Us or like an Uncharted type of thing, or before God of War. Oh yeah, some of those didn't do so hot, but nobody talks about those. But yeah. I don't know. Yeah. That's all I have on that.
And going along with all of that too, you look at Titanfall when it first came out. Oh, it doesn't have campaign, blah blah blah. Smash it with Metacritic. The second game comes out, Titanfall 2, with an amazing campaign, and everybody bashed it because multiplayer changed a little, and all those people missed out on what I think is an amazing campaign. I've never had feelings like, okay, this is a robot. You actually get like a human emotional connection with BT in that. And if nobody's played the campaign, it's at least worth playing the campaign for that. But hey, the Metacritic says it's a shit game, so I'm not going to play it. Well, you missed out.
Yeah.
And that's where everything's going. It's like, oh, well, it's not a 90, it's a garbage game. Well, to that hole in the wall that wrote it from who knows where in their basement.
Mac and cheese.
Yes. Well, they did the same thing with Gears 5. I remember the first few minutes of Gears 5, they were bringing Jack in as more of a character. Like, you had that connection of like, oh no, Jack. Right. And like, dude, in the previous games, he was nothing more than the robot that appeared out of thin air to open a door.
Right. Screw him. He's just a robot anyway.
Oh, okay. No, I get what you're saying about Titanfall too, man. Like, I picked that game up, and I mean, the campaign was absolutely awesome. And by the end of the game, you're just like, you don't want nothing to happen to BT.
Right. Just at the end of it, you're like, are you kidding me? No freaking way. It was really well done.
No, but Metacritic. I've never really paid attention to Metacritic until this gen, and it's only because other people always talk about, oh, it's a good game because it has a high Metacritic. It's like, thinking back to early days of gaming, it was like whatever was on the box art or in a gaming magazine that you saw at the grocery store or something like that. That was usually like your go-to, and then eventually it was like, oh, you can go on YouTube and see places like IGN and whatnot. But it's like even now, I still don't let those either good or bad scores determine exactly. It's like I want to just see, like, if I know a certain reviewer likes the same types of games or the same genre that I like, I'll at least listen to it. So it's like I think ACG is one that's like whether it's like a buy, rent, or pass type of thing.
Mhm.
And on occasion, some of them totally agree with them. There's others that I totally disagree with them on. So it's like I try not to let one critic or even several critics determine whether I should spend money on a game. If all of them are saying it's a bad game, I'm probably still going to check it out. And luckily, with a lot of these setups where it's either through Gold or through PSN, you can try the game free for a weekend, or at least with Xbox Gold, I know you can.
Free
Try it
trial.
free for a weekend on occasions, and it's like, you know what, this game isn't bad or as bad as people say. Like for me, Mass Effect was one of those, and it's like everybody's like, oh, this is not anything like the original Mass Effect. Well, I didn't play the original Mass Effect. Call me a fraud if you want, but for me, Andromeda was a pretty decent game because me being a Star Wars and Star Trek fan, more so Star Trek, I know, but
Same
when
thing.
when it came to Mass Effect Andromeda, for me, it was a good game. Yeah, it had some weird moments where enemies were appearing on top of buildings, or some of the facial expressions, which in all honesty, that wasn't that much of an immersion breaker for me, because there have been other games where it's like, oh, I have stone robot face because I'm asking you to go find my bum leg or
I
whatever.
want immersion and realism in my sci-fi.
Yeah,
It's sci-fi fantasy. There's no realism.
yeah. But it's just one of those things where don't deprive yourself. Like Sad was saying earlier, don't pass up a good game just because somebody said this is not worth your time type of thing. But,
Especially since you can just go on YouTube and watch gameplay videos, go to Mixer, go to Twitch, go to DLive, and watch somebody play the fucking game. I mean, you don't just have to read words on a website or in a magazine anymore. You have tons of media options out there to make an informed decision. And these people that are like, oh, I use Metacritic because it helps me make a choice and it's the only thing I can use. Like, aren't you on the internet right now talking back to me on Twitter? Like, is that the only thing you can use? Like,
That's how I bought that's how I bought the original Division. I remember all the reviews when that game came out and all the people talking trash, and I was like, well, my friend tells me it's a good game. I'm not very sure. I'm going to watch. And I watched hours of that game until I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to get it. I don't, if I'm looking for a crap show outside of Twitter and YouTube, sometimes I'll just tune on to Metacritic and see what they're saying about stuff.
You can just come to my stream. I mean, it's just as crappy. So.
Oh, dude, you don't run a crap show. You actually have something entertaining that's worthwhile in talking
making
about.
a joke and you ruined it.
Well, it goes along the whole same lines where Metacritic is the same as like Rotten Tomatoes or Siskel and Ebert back in the day. Oh, 2 thumbs up, go see this movie. I knew when they gave it 2 thumbs up, I'm going to hate the movie. If they gave it 2 thumbs down, it's going to be a great movie. It's going to appeal to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny you bring up Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
No, there was an article that just came out recently. I forget through who. I know it was a relevant site though. But they were talking about the new Joker movie and how Rotten Tomatoes and other services like that are completely like their systems are not working right, and basically just use the Joker movie as an example. If you look at the media reviews on that movie, it was absolute crap. But if you look at the people who went and saw the movie and weren't trying to get clicks or anything like that, they loved the movie. So there's this whole article was basically just talking about how Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, and what they call aggregation websites or whatever it's called, and that's what these websites are. Yeah. On how they're actually failing to do what they originally set out to do, just because of how flawed their scoring system is.
Right, because it's based on subjectivity instead of based on black and white. Does it play? Is it broken? Does it hit this 720p 60 frames a second? Things that are not subjective. Now, does it look good? Blah blah blah. That's subjective to everybody. So when you try to create your aggregate of all these different opinions and facts and stuff like that, that's why it's always off.
And it's all the other problem is with their algorithm is also the point scales are determined by the popularity of the site. And I always argued, I was like, who determined how popular these sites are? How does that work? Because like the more popular the site is, the more influence that site has to the actual score versus a site that isn't as popular.
Right. It's votes or scores carry more weight compared to some new kid on the block that actually is given a very objective review on a game, but hey, you're not as popular, so your vote carries a 2, where this one is super popular and they gave it mixed reviews, but we're going to give it a 10. Wait, yeah,
Yeah,
I hear you.
No, but yeah, when it comes to just, I don't know. I wish a lot of gamers would just go back to how, like, just base it on their enjoyment level, and understand that, like, if you're a platform gamer and you're into platformers, but you hate, first person shooters, you
Don't
should probably preface your review, or at least let somebody know, hey, first person shooters are not my thing, so here's my take on it. So at least it doesn't seem like, okay, it's a crappy game and a crappy experience, but if that's not your preferred experience, don't necessarily spew it like it's the end all be all as far as experiences for that type of genre. Like, I know I'm a big racing game guy, where driving games, yes, I know that's boring for a lot of people, and a lot of people will say, oh, it's a niche category, and it's like, I don't know. I kind of remember growing up where racing games were one of the pillars, like pole position and outrun and things like that. But it's like now, you'll have somebody review a racing game that they can't stand racing games, but hey, they're all about third person shooters or third person view RPGs and things like that. And it's like, you're probably not the best person to review this. I mean, although their review can sometimes hold some weight, or at least their opinions, like, okay, I wasn't really into this genre, but these key things actually stood out to me as enjoyable things, or things that I like, where a type of game that I wouldn't normally play, this kind of drew me in to play this game, or at least held my attention long enough to be able to finish this review type of thing. But I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm back. Sorry,
Oh, I
guys. I
thought
know
we were
I
going to
had.
have to use some of Stagger's streaming skills and get some entertainment.
No. I had to step away for a second. I apologize, chat. I apologize, panel here. I sent you guys a message in the hangout. I had to do something really quick. My wife had to make sure they got home. So I'm back now. So we can go ahead and move forward. I missed the entire topic you guys were talking about. So sorry once again, chat. I do apologize for that. So we can go ahead and keep this thing going. I had plans for the chat to be not chat, but the topics to be a certain way, but I've completely screwed that up at this point. So we'll just go ahead and bounce over to the next topic. Now, this is actually a funny topic as well. Not funny, but it's a topic that I've kind of been sitting on for a little bit, wanting to talk about it. So recently, the next Battlefield was delayed to 2021. So we're recently seeing this trend that all these games are being pushed back prior to these games being, having releases, prior to them, having trailers and being shown at E3. So it seems to be a trend right at the ass end of this generation that, we saw that Ubisoft, they're pushing back like 3 or 4 games till after like April of 2021 or 2022. One of the two, I can't remember. So we've seen this continuing trend of these games being pushed back. Now we're on both sides of the fence with this, because if it's a good thing, because you want to just finalize the game, get all the bugs out, make sure the game comes out, great. That's great. But sometimes it gets pushed back, and the game still comes out with problems. The game still comes out. It feels like it's halfway done. So there's been discussion throughout this entire generation of good being pushed back, bad being pushed back. So I want to start with you, Phantom, as well. What do you think about the continuing trend of these games prior to, not like a month before the game comes out, but 5, 6, 7, 8 months before the game comes out, them saying, hey, we're gonna push these games back maybe a year, maybe even longer than that to get these things ready. So what's your opinion on that?
My I think Phil Spencer hit it on the head back at E3. I think not this year, but the year before, when he said, "We're not going to announce games until they're ready to launch." And I think that's the problem with a lot of these publishers and stuff too, is putting out the information on these games, and they're maybe like 60%. Um, ready before they go gold.
Hmm.
The other thing too is they may be getting ready for next gen consoles, so their engine may have changed a little. Also, I mean, we really don't
Yes,
know.
that's true. That's a great point.
So I mean, it could be for PS5 extra enhancements, Xbox Scarlet enhancements, things like that. So when it launches, whichever the next gen is, and you still have that game, those assets are already there for you. Now, the other flip side of it, it could just be they're trying to find a better point in the year to make sales. So they're
Yeah.
adjusting to see who they're combating with for that month.
Hmm. No, I agree. I think more specifically, the first point you brought up, I think fits for the instances that have been happening more recently, where the games are being pushed back. I think this is the ass end of the generation. A lot of times, these companies say, you know what, should we put this game out sooner or later? There's even speculation that The Last of Us may be pushed back again. That they may be wanting to hold on that, to that for like a launch title for the PS5. So they're kind of in a weird spot. Should we put these games out now? Should we
Right.
utilize the new hardware coming out and just push them back an additional year to see what happens? Maybe we can add to the game, what we already had, or do something that we weren't capable of doing with the new technology. So I think for these recent instances, I think that's probably more so why. But once again, you could be right. It could just be for sales. Could be a lot of various different reasons. So I agree for the most part with what you said. So let's throw this over to you, Fuzzy. Let's get your opinion next on. Or what do you think about the recent trend of just games being consistently pushed back, especially probably in the last 2 or 3 months?
Well, to agree with like what Gaming Forte was saying in the chat, as long as the game doesn't come out broken, it's a good thing. It's just one of those things where delay the game, make sure you polish it, fix any of the glitches or any of the things that would normally be like a day one type of patch that still wind up breaking other stuff,
Yeah.
and make sure that the game works when it comes out. And I probably harp too much about Drive Club being a big fan of racing games, and that was one for this generation that I was so anxiously looking forward to, and it was so centered around racing online, and it didn't work for a whole month and a half for Racing Online. Now, keep in mind, they delayed it for a year. It was supposed to be a launch title. It didn't come out for a year. Comes out that year later, and it's an online racing game, and it didn't work. It's like at some point, did anybody test this outside of their little dev room or something to see that hey, maybe these servers aren't up to par or something isn't matched up right? And it was just annoying
Yeah.
considering like oh yeah it's supposed to be a launch title 1 year later okay everything should be good because they probably delayed it to fix things make sure things work and it wasn't working. It's like God, come on
But
guys.
another thing, Fuzz, though, and I've talked about this just to kind of cut you off here, is that we're
Mhm.
demanding more and more out of these games every year. So
This is
it has to
true.
be a give and take because we can't say, okay, go ahead and push it back as long as it's for a good thing, and then say,
Mhm.
wait a minute, all this shit is missing from this game. That like, why didn't you add this? Why didn't you add that? Why is this mode not like? We can't do that. We can't have our cake and eat it too. We're
Yeah,
asking more and more out of these games every year, but we're asking them, okay, just make sure they're not broken, but
right.
add all this extra shit in we've been asking for too.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's just one of those things where you have to. I mean, as gamers, we have to be somewhat balanced or fair when we look at these things. But in the grand scheme of things, it just seems like I think the devs are now starting to listen based on like slower sales on some of these bigger titles that come out broken even after the day one patch. I think they've heard the cries of we've had enough. We're not dealing with this game coming out broken
Yeah.
or servers not working for months on end or matchmaking being broken for a year or plus or whatever. And they see that okay, well, we were expecting to sell 10 million copies and we only sold two. I mean, whether that's something to do with other things as far as reviews and
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
that's a whole other story. But yeah, we do demand a lot of these devs. We do expect our games to work, especially a lot of us that are probably from the cartridge days of
Hmm.
when it was like once you bought it, that game had to work right out of the box. There is no internet to update it or fix things or day one patches or any of that stuff. So like maybe we were spoiled because of that time or that aspect, but yeah, it's I don't know. I'm fine with the delays so far. The ones that we've seen delayed, I have a gut feeling that it's not as much that they were so jumbled up in the background like Anthem or whatever, but and that's a sore spot right now.
Oh
But
man, come on now.
but it's just one of those things where as long as those games come out functioning well, they got the polish that you would expect in that whatever time frame delay, then I'm all for it. But
Okay.
moving games just to avoid competition on a certain launch day, so you don't want to be in the same window as like a Grand Theft Auto or Cyberpunk or something like that. Okay, I get it. You want everybody to buy your game at full price, so it's not like your game is the bargain bin second choice thing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I understand. All right, cool. So let's throw this over to you, Stag. So what's your opinion on that, man?
I and if you're going to delay the game, just make sure it works on launch. That's my big thing. And I'm sick and tired of. I mean, even like games when like single player games. I seem to remember Shadow of the Tomb Raider having I don't know, a 3 or 4 gig update day one. You know, and
Yeah,
it's
a
like,
lot of games. Yeah.
come on, like I don't feel like deadlines are consumer friendly. They are publisher friendly. They're for profit margins. But if you're releasing a broken product just to hit that deadline, it's still going to hit your bottom line because we are a fickle bunch of motherfuckers and we will tear your ass apart if your game doesn't work right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, we see it every day on Twitter. You know,
Yeah.
there's certain people that just live for these moments so they can make their video or send out their tweets about whatever game is made by whoever isn't working correctly or these it's got this bugginess, you know, and they've had this much time to make this game correct. I'm really, I don't care if a game's delayed as long as it's working when I play it and I can I mean, it's already bad enough that we all have to install our games. Like, I understand why we have to, and I understand games are bigger than they used to. But you come home, you want to play this brand new game you got. First, you got to install X amount of gigs that the game is. You know, I mean, depending on the size of the game, it can be anywhere from, 400 megabytes for an indie title up to like what the hell is freaking
One
MCC?
one
Like,
one
120.
120,
exactly. Like,
125.
and then you're gonna tell me I gotta download a 5 gigabyte patch or whatever. Like, it's a little bit. It's granted, it's first world problem type shit. You know, like
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
no, I gotta wait 7 extra minutes to play my game. But a lot of us, like, for those kind of games, you've been waiting a while and you don't want to wait any longer because it's now in your hands.
Yeah.
And then even after, installing that game, installing the patch, especially with a lot of these multiplayer games, it's still buggy and it's still broken. And I know those games are hard to make work. It's a lot of gears in the machine, to
Yeah.
make
It's tough.
the online stuff work well. You got different people from around the world on different systems, like, and I mean like internet providers and servers and that kind of stuff. I mean, like, it's
Crossplay.
yeah, there's a lot of bells and whistles going on. So I know it's not easy, but I think these people would be better served to make sure their games work, and they would probably make more money. Their reputations would hold up longer, and you'd give the clickbaiters less material.
Yeah. And shout out to Forte in the chat too. He said testing. He said, people don't test
Yeah.
their games enough anymore. So I think that's underrated. I think
I mean-
testing the game more, and once again, a lot of that has to do with deadlines, publishers, dollars, when it boils down, because it costs money to test. That's not free either. So it
There's a
costs
whole
money
lot you can't
so,
account for when it
yeah.
comes to these huge online multiplayer that you can't. I mean, they have us do pre-order betas or alphas, betas, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's things you just cannot account for happening once you flip that switch.
Yep. Yeah, once
You can
open the
only
floodgates.
plan for what you think is going to happen.
Yeah.
Shit always happens that you're like, oh, well, now that happened, it kind of fucking makes sense. But you don't think about everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they do the best they can, and I think once again it's a fine line. We've talked about this on the podcast. You can go back and check the archives. We've said it over and over again. The more and more we demand shit out of these games with this new hardware, we're expecting, okay, you're gonna take it to the next level. Okay, open world, I really want to see what open world is now. 2 times bigger, maps, all these different things we've been asking for and we're expecting out of this new hardware in the new generation. don't be surprised if that comes with these games being pushed back more often. It comes with bigger times in between sequels, 3-4 years in between sequels, because these games take time. These games take time to be made. So it's plain and simple, plain and simple. So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Centurion. Let's find out what's your opinion on this, man.
Well, the motto is, bugs, 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 glitches, glitches, glitches. Buy our product today. No. I'm actually with. I think Phantom was one of the ones that said it, that he was like with Phil Spencer on don't throw. It's one thing to tease a game. It's another thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to throw that release date on it when the game is nowhere near ready for being released into the wild. And yeah, they definitely need to test their products. They need to get larger pools. This is where I've always said that these developers should take a big advantage of the Xbox preview program and their the alpha program, and get a hold of some of these members that are in the Microsoft alpha program and be like, hey, we were wanting to know if we gave you guys temporary access to like a slice of the game. Could you guys, with a couple thousand people, try to break it and we can see how it works and do some testing? But now they're just letting these games out into the wild. And yeah, the whole idea of patching, I understand the importance of some patches because it's kind of how it's going to work in next gen for how some of these games are going to work on the original consoles and how they're going to work on the new consoles. You're going to plug that game in and you're going to download some assets that are specific to that console that are going to improve your experience, especially if you're on the Scarlet.
Yeah.
But definitely along with because everybody's wanting ray tracing now. We're all hearing about ray tracing. That is opening Pandora's box to a whole another situation of bugs and glitches that have never been seen before, because it's kind of if you go into game design, if you have one thing out of place, one polygon that hasn't been polished right, and you get something that like ray tracing that hits that, it's just going to probably create something that you've never seen before. I could see them delaying some of these games purely because of launch windows. We didn't really hear much about Assassin's Creed. We know that they've got something good going on at Ubisoft for Assassin's Creed, so we haven't heard about them.
I thought the article was all their games that were coming out in that time period. I don't know if it specifically said that year or that was supposed to come out, because they've been pushed. Let me know, chat. I don't know if it's 2021 April or 2022. I can't remember exactly. It may be 2022, or a lot of those games got pushed to April and further of that year. So,
I think they only have 3 coming out this coming year, and then the rest are pushed back beyond that. I think that window.
Yeah, I think it was Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, Legion, and I don't know the other one.
Something else, yeah.
But definitely, I know next gen probably has a big part to do with it. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these gaming companies, the hardware developers, Xbox, PlayStation, maybe even Nintendo, are actually maybe asking for some of these developers to slow down, purely because we know how it works almost with every generation of consoles. Is the minute the new generation comes out, there's barely anything to play. Yeah. And so they're probably trying to spread it out a little bit. And if you want my honest to God opinion too, I would not want to go head to head with Cyberpunk. There's no way. Well, I mean, I would not want to go head to head with them.
That's fair. Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's like putting your game around GTA, but yeah, it's I wouldn't put my game near that.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of like football games. The more popular teams get, the more prime time slot. In other words, the games that people want to really see are televised, and they get that more prime time slot. The games that aren't going to be as popular, they'll sometimes have them early or on different channels that aren't as popular. Always have
the Steelers and Dolphins on Monday Night Football.
Stop it.
So I know some people that would be like, "Oh my God, the Steelers." But yeah, definitely you got to be aware of your competition. You don't want your product to be influenced at all by your competition. That is why I think it's also going to be absolutely asinine for both Xbox and PlayStation to launch on the same day or even with the same few weeks of each other, because at that point you're going to really confuse the consumer, because the consumer is now going to have both these options in front of them, and it's going to create a dilemma for some people like me who have a hard time making decisions.
I think
Well,
that people are
I
going to buy their
yeah,
system
they're
of
gonna
choice
buy whatever they
regardless.
want.
I
I
mean,
don't
I
think
think
that's
I think we're
yeah,
so in, like the majority of gamers that are already gamers
yeah.
are already
You
Well,
just
entrenched in
you've
their
already made
system.
your
You know
mind
who's
up.
going to have a
well, yeah, I'm
problem
not
is
talking
those
about.
parents that are buying their freaking 7-year-old a new console when honestly they should probably just be buying them last gen because it's a kid. But I
Well,
mean,
I'm also looking at it from the casual perspective. I know that there's a huge hardcore community that have already drawn their lines in the sand. I know I'm getting the Xbox first. I'm pretty sure there's people on this panel getting the Xbox first, regardless of when they're launching. But definitely, I do look at the average consumer that sees how popular gaming is getting, and they're like, "Oh, I want to get a console," and then they're going to go to the store and have both these options in front of them, and then they're going to have these, you know, like, let's just be truthful, a lot of the employees at these electronic stores and gaming companies, or gaming stores, they have their own personal preference that they sometimes like to push on customers. And so that's where it definitely creates a situation where somebody could feel overwhelmed and decide to not make the purchase.
so
I
Because
how do
mean,
people
I
decide
mean,
to
you
buy a new
can't.
TV or a pair of
Yeah, like
shoes?
that's
I
you
mean,
can't.
it's
I
just
mean, at the end of the day, the product's there. The product's out there. The information can be found now. Who's providing the information and like ultimately sways their decision either way? You can't
Oh,
help. That's something you can't help. Like it's just that's just you don't you. That's the part of the supply line you have no control over.
I'm just
You
saying,
put
like,
your product in the store, and that's about is it. You can only say, hey, let's make a big flashy billboard. Let's do a bunch of commercials to try and get that person's to kind of come to your side. But once it gets to that point, once it's in the store, there's really nothing you can do. So I understand where you're coming from, though, where that can be a little wonky sometimes.
no, I just, with these games, obviously people have budgets, and you can't expect people to want to buy like 4 or 5 games a month.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. I mean, get that Game Pass by the way, everybody. That's why
Oh
you
God,
have
yeah.
things like that. So it's just you can't cover all your bases. There's only so much you can do. Even these multi-billion-dollar companies, that when it really boils down to one person saying, "Hey, I want this console, or I want the other one, or I want that other one," which is Nintendo essentially, or I want to play on my PC. So man, it was a great bunch of great topics today. I actually was gonna go ahead and take a bunch of questions from the chat because my daughter just got home and I gotta make it run. I'm actually gonna go ahead and end it. Now we are a little bit over as far as the time, but it was a great show. I know I missed a healthy chunk of the middle of the show, but I'm gonna go ahead and rewatch the show myself. But once again, just want to say everybody that watched live. There was a ton of you guys in here. The chat was lit. I was trying to keep up as best as I could while I was running around multitasking. Appreciate you guys showing up, showing out. Let's just go ahead and give a clap in the chat as well to our guest of the hour here, Phantom. Man, we just want to say thank you for coming on, spending a little bit of time. I hope you enjoyed the show. Once again, I apologize for me having to step away. Had some family things going on, so got to take care of those things first and foremost. But let everybody know where they can find you, what you got going on, and what you got coming up, Phantom.
You can find me on Twitter, the Phantom_E9, Phantom E9 on Instagram, Xbox Phantom E9 on Xbox, and Mixer Phantom E9. I'm going to be partnering up with the dev from Atlas. So for the next month, 2 hours every night, we'll be streaming their game
Nice.
exclusively onto their Steam store page. So that's one of the things I've been working on.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm just lurking around trying to support everybody on any creation platform I can, and just enjoying the show. And thanks for having me on.
No problem, brother. And once again, I let every guest know on the show, man. Once you come on here once, man, you're always welcome on the show. You may get a random DM from me one week saying, "Hey, you available to come on, man?" So it was great having you on. Super knowledgeable. Once again, guys, go follow him on Twitter. As I keep telling you guys, a lot of us use Twitter as a hub. So if you want to know what we got going on, where we're going to be at, the shows we're going to be on, videos coming out, whatever creatively we got going on, follow our Twitter accounts. That's where you'll be able to keep up with everything. But once again, Phantom, appreciate you taking a little bit of time out and you spending the evening with us for about an hour or so, man. Thank you so much. And once again, you're welcome on at any time you feel like it, man. Just hit me up. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
for sure, for sure.
And then my compadres here. We're gonna go ahead and start with Mr. Stagger Lee. Stagger Lee. How dare I say
It's
that? That's the
okay.
old
That's fine.
Staggerilla, Stagger Lee, Stagger. God damn it. Either
Just say
way,
stagger.
just
I
say
mean, yeah.
Stag. Yeah, just say Stag. Keep it easy.
Don't stag.
Yeah. But either way, man, appreciate you, Stag. Once again, super consistent. Let everybody know what you got going on. He did say he's going to be on Twitch exclusively now, so follow him there on
Mm,
Twitch and go check out what he's doing. But let everybody know what you got cooking up, man.
like 99% exclusively to Twitch. I
Okay.
do have a couple titles that I still owe work for on Mixer, but
Okay.
that's besides the point. Yeah, I mean, you can find me Staggerilla on Twitch and Twitter. That's pretty much where I stick around to. I've been trying to be a little bit more interactive during the week on the old Twitter and post some questions and try and be objective. But yeah, come to the stream, watch some indie titles. I would highly recommend going and watching Phantom play Atlas. It's not my kind of game, but I know he will represent it well because he likes that kind of stuff. It
Nice.
was great having you here this week, Phantom, and it's always great to be here Saturdays with the rest of the crew.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Next we got Centurion. Let us know what's going on with you, Centurion. I know you finally getting back. I know your schedule is changing very soon as well, so there's some things going to be changing with your channel. But go ahead and let everybody know watching what you got cooking up.
Yes, for anybody who cares, I've been working way too much and I'm getting back on the content creation train now as we speak. But you can always find me at Twitter, YouTube, and Xbox Live at Centurion1307. I also make appearances on Thursday nights on Saltiest Gaming Podcast. Right here every Saturday night on the Shop Podcast, my first ever podcast. This is my home away from home. And then also on Sundays on the Xbox Roundtable or the TXR podcast with Tim Dog, Invader, Southbound, Megatron, and Shockley and Downer. I mean, great group of guys. They have shown me a lot about the industry and just taking in everything that they want to show me.
Yeah, you
So,
definitely got some good. You definitely got some good network connections for real. Those are a bunch of good podcasts, a bunch of awesome guys. Shout out to Salty. Shout out to everybody in TXR, one of the OG podcasts, by the way. If you didn't know, they do a lot of great things over there. There's a lot of clout over there in TXR, man. They got a lot going on. But appreciate all of those guys. They put on a great show. Salty as well. So go ahead and check out Centurion. Once again, follow him on Twitter as well. Once again, like I said, you guys, that's where we're going to be putting up a lot of our content at. So last but not least, Mr. Barry White. Besides being asleep and playing Forza, what else do you have going on?
Hey guys, yeah, I'm starting my Instagram now for some of my Forza picks and things like that, and I'm going to dive into Forza a bit more. Try to finish off Outer Worlds, and I have to clear that stash on Division 2. I definitely want to get back into it. I gotta like pick and choose what build I'm going to do next, but
We'll talk
always
about that later.
always fun to be here. Awesome guests. Thank you for coming on. Always fun to be here with Stag and Centurion as well as you, Blam. Man, this is my favorite part of the week. Always on
Absolutely.
here Saturdays.
Absolutely. And I appreciate, man, my compatriot. Shout out to Zalker. Shout out to Jarhead as well, the other members of the Shop podcast behind the scenes, guys. But yeah, man. So last but not least, your boy PTK Blam across the board. Find me everywhere, PTK Blam, Xbox Live, Twitter. Got a lot of things going on with the channel. I'm going to be changing some things behind the scenes, videos, all types of different things that I want to happen on this channel coming up, man, for the new year, just for, moving forward. So just keep up with what's going on. I appreciate every single person watching live, as well as everybody in the chat. If you weren't in the chat, appreciate you just, joining for the view, essentially, as well as for the content. So, man, you guys, we'll be back here next week, same time, same motherfucking place. Best podcast on the weekend. If you don't know, now you know. Hit us up a little bit later, man. We are out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. Take it easy, fellas. Peace out.